welcome to the Peterborough podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I mean, both John and I think the world of Light Project Peterborough, and we've both visited the wonderful building many times. I think let's start off our conversation today by asking you to let anybody who's listening to this know a little bit more about what you do as an organisation.
Yeah, so thank you for having me, for us here at Light Project Peterborough. The charities was registered in 2015, but the founders started in 2009, so we've been on a long journey. Now we're running a number of different projects. We're here to serve the city, we're here to help people in need, and we help lots of people, and we've got lots of different projects going on. So
this is a charity to help the homeless, to help rough sleepers.
So we we help homeless, we help rough sleepers, but we're not a charity that's just framed within the homelessness world. So our street chaplains, for example, they'll go out and help general members of the public on a daily basis. So yeah, we can do anything we want to do really in terms of helping people in need.
How many people are in need, Stephen?
How many people in need in Peterborough? Well, I think, primarily, we're doing lots of work with the homeless community, and, lots of people are in need. We see over one new person per day come into the Garden House, which is one of our big projects, our biggest project, to say that they're sleeping on the streets, they've lost their broken down family relationships, they've lost their jobs, they're sleeping in their car or on a bench. So 400 or 500 people a year come into us to say that actually they're in a real mess in the city.
John, when you think about that, one new person every single day, presenting themselves as in dire straits, in real need. That's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. I was just going to ask: is that getting worse? Is that steadily getting worse per year, or is it sort of stabilising, if you like?
Yeah, in December, 32 new people came to us and said they were sleeping on the streets. They didn't have anywhere to stay. I think we opened the Garden House in 2018. And probably similar sorts of numbers there. And then we had the pandemic in the middle of things. I would say probably that people's needs are different now. I think we tend to see people with greater mental health challenges now than we did in 2018. But in terms of the consistency of people coming and presenting, hasn't really changed in terms of the numbers.
What are your big challenges as a charity, as an organisation? What are the tough challenges that you're currently trying to get on top of?
Yeah, I'll leave the funding one for a moment, but I think we're an independent charity, and we like to find that space where we can actually challenge the system somewhat. And there are bits in the system, as we all know, that are not working as well as we'd hope. Over the last couple of years, we've really managed to work with the NHS and the Integrated Care Board to raise awareness and bring more resources into Peterborough for the homeless community in terms of health services. So that's a challenge that we want to keep going. We want to make sure vulnerable groups that we're working with have the right access to health support and facilities that is needed for them, but also for us in terms of preventing people going to the emergency department over and over and over and over again. So actually, let's see them in the community really quickly so they don't put a pressure on emergency departments. I think we've increased our support for people with mental health. That's been good. I'd say that still is a press. Most weeks we'll see somebody having some sort of mental trauma, some sort of mental breakdown, and therefore we're working with emergency health services, whether that's the ambulance or emergency services, whether that's the police, to try and contain the situation. So that's a big challenge for the staff on the ground and the volunteers. One of our challenges is volunteers, so at the Garden House and many of our projects that we're running, our gold dust is the volunteers that are coming through, and volunteers come for a season, and quite rightly their lifestyle changes, they move on. So we're open 7 days a week through the project at the Garden House, and we're constantly looking for new volunteers to work with us. And so I wouldn't say that's an opportunity to work with amazing people in Peterborough to actually get involved with the work we're doing.
I think every challenge, you can dress it up as an opportunity.
Yeah,
Why
try.
not? And John, maybe you can comment here on the garden house, because Stephen's mentioned that a few times. When you've been to the garden house, what have you seen? What do they do?
I always think it's just a really friendly and welcoming place. And you might think to yourself, oh, you're going somewhere where you're helping rough sleepers or people who are facing challenges in life, and it might be quite a challenging location. But I have never found that, and I have visited on several occasions, both in its current location and where it used to be as well. And I've just found it welcoming and brilliant. Just to touch on what you said there, what if you were a volunteer, what sort of things would you do? Would it depend on your own skills, or would it be working with, I'm sure, a variety of people? What sort of things would might a volunteer be asked to do?
Yeah, so we're very fortunate. The garden house is Peterborough's homeless hub. And one of the areas I mentioned, sort of trying to challenge the system and change the system. When we first set up the garden house, before I set it up, if somebody was homeless, they'd have to go to all these different agencies all across the city. So, let's try and work with our statutory partners and get them all to work together in one place, so you can get all the support in one place. So we're very fortunate to have that sort of multi-agency professional services. Our volunteers, I don't want to dismiss this, but our volunteers are a friendly face. They're there because they're not paid to be there. They're there just showing love and kindness. Primarily, they bring that aspect in terms of when somebody comes in, it's like, oh, Joan, you're back again this week. I've seen you over and over again over the weeks. And I think that's so powerful in terms of that hope and that love, as opposed to somebody who's been paid to do it, which is great. And they've got a passion as well, but having a volunteer to do that is really special. What do they do? They make cups of tea, they make food, they sign people in, really important things in terms of making sure people are signed in and signed out, and, a couple of shifts in the morning and shifts in the afternoon. And, they're sort of the heart of, the warmth. So that sort of preparation for the professionals. Oh, somebody's got some love inside them, some hope inside them, some food and a warm belly, and they're just been, G'd up a little bit. That preparation for some of the professionals to maybe have some more difficult conversations is really important.
I would imagine if you're a volunteer for the garden house and you see the impact that your volunteering makes on a homeless person or a rough sleeper, that would be so rewarding.
Yeah, in December just gone, we saw 34 people move off the street. So yeah, we're getting lots of presentations of new people coming, but actually we're all working together well to help people move off. So of those 34, there'll be, some tears, there'll be some distress, and seeing those people turned around, and some smiles and some joy as they get their new keys, as hope is reinstalled. They're registered with a GP, they've got their CV done, they've got, a little things just a bit more in order so they can move forward. So yeah, there are most days there's some tears going on and some laughter and some joy, but to get to know folks and see them turn around. A lot of people come. You can when we're down, you can sort of physically see it in our face and sort of be downcast, and you can see people's faces physically change and physically lift. And I believe the feedback I get from volunteers is that they love working with us.
Because you're giving people, you mentioned mental health earlier, and you're giving people companionship as well. Because I guess for a lot of people who are coming in, they don't know where to turn, and they probably haven't spoken to a friend or a family member. Perhaps it might be weeks or months. You're giving them hope, you're giving them dignity, you're giving them a lot of things that they haven't had for quite a while sometimes.
Yeah, relationship breakdown within the sort of homeless community is one of the roots of the reasons why people lose their accommodation. And I've seen people coming in and they're going sort of into themselves because they've sometimes actually I've messed up and I don't want anybody to know about it. I don't want to talk about it, and I've lost the community of friends, whether I've lost my job because I've lost my house, and they've lost different relationships.
One of the things you mentioned a few minutes ago when we talked about challenges that the charity is facing, you briefly mentioned the word funding. Do you have an idea of how much it costs to run your charity as a whole? and how you're doing with fundraising?
So off the top of my head, I haven't got the exact figures in terms of how much it costs us as a whole. It's open and transparent. It's on our website, but we're, a number of £100,000. So we've got, the Garden House, which is open 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We've got, lots of bills there to pay, rent and utilities, and, for many charities like ourselves, national insurance sort of rates are going up because we've got staff on board, and we're running 7 emergency accommodation units across the city, which in terms of relationships and people, getting to know new people and building friendships again, they're really important based on 4 church sites. So, a number of hundreds of thousands of pounds for us to run the charity.
But are you worried that you're not raising enough to cover all of your costs, or are you okay with fundraising?
I think, most days, Kev, I'm full of hope and faith in terms of where we are. When we opened the Garden House, we didn't have enough money to run us for the first 6 months. But we just went for it for 6 months and just said we believe we're helping lots of people. And, I said my prayers and, it's all come to pass. We are in the position now, as many charities and some statutory organisations, where we are concerned about April the 1st and this new financial year coming through. And, we are working with Peterborough City Council and the Integrated Care Board, the NHS,
the streets.
So they don't contribute funding towards us. So in terms of so they don't contribute funding towards us. But in terms of the funding partners, we're working with some of our big funding partners to nail down whether there will be any financial contributions across 25, 26. So, I have faith. But we can always, I think for us as a medium-sized charity, having financial stability and knowing where we are means that we can plan better services going down the line.
Just as we mentioned in the last section, some of the comments we've had, we were talking about the cathedral and how that's trying to raise money. And one of our listeners said about the cathedral, it's a beautiful building, but maybe the £2 million, referring to how much it costs to run the cathedral, maybe the £2 million will be better going towards homelessness and businesses. And I think sort of the bigger picture of that is that what perhaps she's saying is that maybe it's more people are choosing to sort of help themselves, perhaps more than charities sometimes. I don't know if you have a sort of a view on that. You've just mentioned the financial difficulties a lot of businesses and charities will be facing at the moment. People are having to make difficult decisions in their lives, aren't they?
Yeah, I think the cathedral's got to raise £300,000 before the end of March. That's the ask at the moment, and I think they've done quite well in that moving forward. In terms of whether the money should go to the cathedral or not, well, it's a great, amazing building in the city centre, and I think it brings a lot of publicity and a lot of tourism to the city. So I think in the round, why lose 800, 900? We don't want to go into a place where we're selling.
I always think, though, John, when people have their opinions, and I respect everyone else's opinion, but if I disagree with the opinion, I want to say it. And I completely disagree when you try and compare, that money will be better spent to that charity rather than that charity. All causes, all needs are, I think, merited in their own right. And I don't like comparing charities or comparing where money should go.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that not necessarily talking about the cathedral now, that some people might be cutting down on giving money to charity as a whole.
Yeah, so you mean it's becoming harder to fundraise?
Yeah, I think I guess that might be an issue for a lot of people, and they might not be able to support causes that they used to before.
Yeah, I think what we've seen, because we are Peterborough focused, what we've seen is, people coming to us and saying, actually, we want to give our kind piece of money to something that's happening in Peterborough, rather than something big and national. And I think that's something quite special about our city. That is a sort of reoccurring theme that, we've got people here who maybe got a little bit of funds to give into something, and they want to give it to Peterborough people.
Is Light Project Peterborough the chosen charity for any particular businesses or big organisations?
Oh, now that's a question. So we're working very closely with Taylor Wimpey at the moment, because we're developing an exciting community garden. Hopefully over the next couple of months we'll see an exciting community garden springing to life. It's a flat muddy thing at the moment, and we're working with Taylor Wimpey on that. Are we the sponsored charity of the year? I'll get into trouble here if I forget. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. We've got a big sleep out, Posh, in March. So not necessarily a chosen charity with Posh, but
that's
actually,
a big
quite
one.
exciting
Yeah,
for
it
us.
is. So, so this is an opportunity for people to experience what it's like to sleep rough. How does it work? How does it fundraise for you?
Yeah, so we did it last year, and we had 60, 70 people sleeping in the concourse, which was exciting. It was a bit of a test, really, to see if it worked at Posh, and we didn't cause any trouble and all that. And,
So overnight, you're going to sleep
overnight, Friday,
in the concourse at the football ground.
Well, this year, Friday, the 14th of March, we're looking for over 100 people, and people will be able to sleep in the concourse, but this time they'll be able to sleep outside as well. So you'll have a bit of bit more luxury undercover, but actually, if you really want to experience things outside, you can go outside as well.
On the pitch?
Not allowed on the pitch. No, not allowed on the pitch.
In a room of football?
Don't even make the suggestions that are allowed on the pitch. The pitch is beautiful grass.
And sacred grass.
Sacred grass of the Posh. But we're excited about that. We're working with the Posh Community Foundation. We're hoping some of the players will come down, and it's a real experience. We'll have some music, we'll have a bit of food. I think from last year we had some pizzas, and some of the feedback was that wasn't really realistic enough. So we're going to have some less good food, but that sort of excitement and buzz and getting out together, and just we'll raise some funds for us. We did really well, £30,000 or so last year. Amazing contribution for the city, and that will really help us and the Posh Community Foundation. But actually, for me, it's how Peterborough is thinking about homelessness, and some of schools in the local area are thinking about doing sort of a virtual sleep out as well. So for me, it's like a city-wide thinking on what does it mean.
Sleeping out in their own gardens and things
their
like
gardens and at the schools. So what does the city think about those people who are in real need coming together?
I just want to sort of raise a question that comes up quite often on various social media, and that is almost sort of why more isn't being done for homeless people, whether or rough sleepers, because whenever you see comments about the city centre, people say, oh, there's too many vape shops and there's too many, and there's rough sleepers here, there and everywhere as well. So I just wonder whether you have a comment on that or not, and I guess also if you obviously you exist, do rough sleepers know about you? Do they know enough about Light Project Peterborough and about the services that are available? Those two, the answers to those questions might be linked, to be honest, in your answer.
Yeah, I think, just looking at some numbers here, over 1,000 different people came through the Garden House last year, accessing support, looking for support. So I think that's 1,000 plus people that know about us. Again, we work very hard at the charity to encourage our partners to work together. So the City Council's Rough Sleeper outreach team will be going out and finding people, and they will be directing to us. If the police find somebody in distress, they will bring them to us. We're open 7 days a week. So I think, we're discreet. It's important to be discreet, and that's why we're sort of tucked away in the cathedral precincts in the city centre, because people don't necessarily want some of these things exposed to everybody. It's quite difficult for people. So I think many people know about us, find us. We're strong on social media. We try to get as much communication out to our services and partners and businesses as possible. In terms of could more be done, when we sort of get into the political world of things, I think I've just noted the numbers that, what is being done is the community and the voluntary sector is playing a major part in Peterborough, but right across the country to fill the spaces that maybe some of our political leaders are really wrangling with and can't get hold of. I think people are struggling. Right across the piece, we're not talking about the cost of living crisis much anymore in the news, but it's probably something else now. But people are struggling, and people are on the tipping point. I think, there'll be some new strategies coming out from new governments, and they'll be endeavouring to do their best. And all we ask is that they listen to the voluntary sector and the faith sector, and they work with us, whether that's nationally or locally. And that's where we continue to ask the City Council in Peterborough to say, listen to us, work with us, because we had a different dynamic to actually some of the statutory services.
I spoke recently to a guy that works in some of the soup kitchens, handing out free food to some of the rough sleepers behind the brewery tap, Tuesdays and Thursday nights. One of the things that he said to me that really resonated in my mind was that the group that he's part of doesn't only want to focus on handouts, but hand-ups. And that I thought was a really nice phrase. It's not just a handout, it's a hand up. And I think what the Garden Project and what the Garden House and what Light Project Peterborough are all about, when you see somebody for the first time who is facing an absolute crisis in their life, and I think you mentioned, didn't you, that often it's relationship breakdowns. Suddenly you're out on your ear, you're sleeping in your car, you've got no money, you've got nowhere to turn. So knowing the work that you do is all about making sure they're okay on day one, but then searching with them for a solution to get them back on their feet and into society again, not being a drain on society. And I suppose when I contemplate all of that, John, and I'm sure you'd agree with this, your charity is incredibly important to this city. Incredibly important to this city. That's all I wanted to say. It's not a question. It's just a statement.
We think
all
so.
agree.
We
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
We think so. And the volunteers that work with us, again, 7,000 volunteering hours last year, and giving those opportunities for people to volunteer and contribute and help and give back, that sort of wrap around. What does it mean for a local charity to work with a community, to work with people we help? I was just reminded of somebody that we helped a little while ago who was sleeping at Flag Fen, and the Flag Fen folks were looking after her, as a young lady, in a real mess. And she came to us 6 months or so ago, and now she's moved on and she went through our peer advocate training, and now she's volunteering with us and she's helping other people who are struggling on the streets or with problems to move forward, and she's really turned it around. So that's sort of how do we empower people to give back. That's a notion. Don't just come to the Garden House to have some food. You're worth a lot.
Yeah.
You're worth a lot. Let's get you back on your feet, and you can give back. I want to give back to you. No, we'll just give back somewhere, anywhere in the city.
Brilliant. What a lovely way maybe to kind of bring our conversation to a close. Hearing that powerful journey that person went on, I think is fantastic. Have you ever met our Bishop, Bishop Debbie?
Yes, spent some time with Debbie. She's great.
She's supportive?
Very supportive. Oh, yes, so we are. We are very supported this year. So we are the Bishop's charity.
Exactly. That's where I was leading with it.
Yeah, that's it, absolutely. And
Leading
we're really,
question.
That's it, really proud. How could I forget? Really proud of that, and, really great, commendation for the staff and the volunteers and the work that's done. So
Bishop Debbie, Bishop of Peterborough, wanted to choose Light Project Peterborough as the charity for her this next year. And, I mean, that's an awesome
real honour
thing, isn't it?
Amen to that.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Stephen Pettican, and people can find out more by just searching up Light Project Peterborough online on social media, and they can read more about the work that you do. And there we end it. If you would like to comment on any of the things that we've talked about on this edition of the podcast, we have an email address.
peterborough.podcast@gmail.com, or you can find us on TikTok and YouTube. There's lots of places, and we got lots of comments, and thank you all for doing so.
Yeah, thanks for downloading, thanks for listening, and thanks for watching our little video clips. And Stephen Pettican, that's my favourite coat I've seen any guest wear. Okay, cool, Stephen's coat.
It is very nice.
That is a very, very cool jacket.
Yeah, good branding.
And there we end this latest Peterborough podcast. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time.